So you're blaming these floods on the fact that our systems are 50 years old, and that's one of the problems.
That's one of the problems.
That's one of the problems. Anthony, what about squatting and illegal agriculture on state lands? How big a problem is this?
It contributes, but there is another source of concern, which is the land ownership issue on the Northern Range in particular. Our research has indicated that about 50% of the lands on the southernmost facing slope, the one that we see when we drive along the highways, that is under private ownership. And a lot of the times, those owners are absent, which means we cannot get in contact with them. Those lands are burnt every year, they're used by squatters, and they are developed in a manner which is not conducive to good environmental protection. So we would like to see this issue of absentee landowners on the Northern Range in vulnerable areas addressed, and we think that that is going to make a significant dent in the problem.
Okay, I want to come back to that question, but I want to ask you, Garvin, has the ODM failed in its relief exercise?
The ODPM?
Yes.
No. Now, going back to
That's not what we've been hearing.
Okay, and I'll explain. The ODPM has fallen short in some areas, yes, and there's a lot of improvement that can be made. But has it failed? No, it has not failed, because it actually did get... now, the role of the ODPM is to coordinate disaster relief. And there are a number of different agencies that are required to be coordinated. Local government, in every single regional corporation, there is a disaster unit that is supposed to be easily activated. Those systems did not operate as well as they should have because they have been neglected over the years. You had the Army and the fire services being activated. They responded fairly well. The communications aspect of it, we in the Office of the Prime Minister stepped in to assist, and therefore we got the communication out as soon as possible. So yes, we identified some issues with the ODPM, but it's not that they have failed. They just simply did not reach the level that we would have required them to reach. Now I go a little further. We spoke about the drainage and that sort of thing. Now, there is no doubt in my mind that there needs to be improvement in the infrastructure to bring us to 2010. However, the infrastructure that we have at present has not been properly maintained over the last decade. When we went around the country, we noticed that there were trees growing in rivers. And these trees weren't one-year-old trees.
Who's responsible for this?
That is Ministry of Works.
That would be you.
Yes,
Yeah.
So why is that happening?
There is something else we need to consider. If we take out all the obstruction from certain rivers, the impact downstream will be we get there faster. Now, generally, the trees in rivers, from what I've seen, would be in areas where you don't have much people living. If you take it out from there, what happens downstream? What we need to do, really, and this is what we are looking at before we can take off all obstructions from the watercourse, like trees and sometimes culverts, is we are looking at a means of storing this stormwater somewhere, because the channels are overburdened, they're overstressed, they cannot hold all of it. So we have a problem with the conveyance, that is taking the water from point A to the sea, more or less. The solution really is storage. And the Drainage Division over the past year have been looking at that particular aspect of the solution.
Well, you've been looking at it for last year, but we want some solutions, and I hope that happens soon. We'll take a short break. As you watch, I want to remind you to send in your comments and suggestions to cleaningupthemess@guardian.co.tt. This is an environmental series on CNC3. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this environmental series on CNC3. We're talking about the flooding disaster in this country. My guests are the Conservator of Forests, Anthony Ramnarayan, Director of Drainage, Shamshad Mohammed, and Garvin Nicholas, the Prime Minister's Press Secretary. Before we get back to them, let's take a look at some more of the flooding disaster in TNT. Well, Mr. Shamshad Mohammed, I want to come back to you. Why can't the existing system accommodate the estimated discharge from the rainfall? Why does it take us by surprise every single year during the rainy season?
Okay, the systems that exist would have been designed at some point in time many years ago, as I said before. At that point in time, they would have been adequate. The capacity would have been what is required for the drainage systems at that point, if whatever rains would come. Over the past 60 or so years, we have, well, the country, WRA, have been collecting rainfall data. Today, when we have to design a system, we use the rainfall data, and we have to determine whether we're going to design a system for 10 years from or 20 years from or 50 years from, as the case may be. We use the rainfall curves, and we use the data to be designed for that system. Now, if the environment, in terms of buildings and forest, and everything were like it was 50 years ago, the systems would be adequate today. But it's different. So now we have to use a different set of parameters and design systems that would be able to accept and convey the runoff, which is much higher today. In some cases, it might be 100% higher than what it was previously when the systems were then designed.
So why weren't retention reservoirs, for instance, built?
The emphasis, for whatever reason, might have been on conveyance for many years. That is getting the water quickly out to it. It can no longer happen, as I said before. That is no longer possible because of the rate at which development is taking place. And yes, that is what we are looking for. Storage means retention, some form of attenuation upstream in the upper catchments, whether we're going to do check dams or we're going to do detention ponds as well. So we have retention ponds, you have detention ponds, you have the dams. Even reforestation is the solution to the hillside problem that we are having.
But this is all great in theory. Is it actually going to happen?
We are working at it right now, and we have put in our development program for the next fiscal year. Somebody is working some of the catchment areas where we've been having problems for the past year or two.
Anthony, how big is the quarries? How big a problem are they?
The quarries have become a significant problem as well. When one flies overhead, especially over the northeast part of the country, one sees all of these quarried areas which have not been rehabilitated, even though it's a standard condition in the quarry lease. So those quarries also need attention, as well as other areas which have been destroyed by fire.
And clearly there's need for legislation as well regarding the quarrying.
There is existing legislation, but I don't think the enforcement is strong enough to ensure that the quarries are rehabilitated.